Hi guys, in this week's video I thought I'd do something different. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the recently unveiled Intellivision Amico, which is a successor to the original Intellivision released in 1979. So what we're going to do is I'm going to basically talk a little bit about the original Intellivision, just for a bit. I'm not going to do like a full history of it or anything. I'm going to watch the trailer, and as we go through, I'm going to give my opinions on anything that's said or shown, and at the end we'll do final thoughts on the trailer and if I think the system is going to be any good. So, to begin with, the Intellivision was released in 1979 by Mattel, who was most famous for, and is still most famous for, being a toy company. The Intellivision was one of the more successful second generation consoles, along with the ColecoVision and the Atari 2600. Never beat the 2600, nothing ever did in that generation, but it was one of the main competitors that people took interest in. Intellivision was also the world's first game console with any sort of online capabilities. It wasn't like what we have today. Like, it wasn't online multiplayer or anything. It was like you could upload your high scores in games to a server and they could be shown to other people who had the Intellivision connected to the internet, which was very few people. It wasn't very widely used because this was 1979. And the Intellivision was also the first game console to have like voice acting kind of in games, because they had this add-on called the voice synthesizer, I think it's called, and it connected to the side of the Intellivision, and any game that supported it, it would basically would talk. So that's something. Unlike most companies in the second generation that made a game console, Mattel survived obviously because the Intellivision wasn't their main thing. They were still a toy company. They just made a video game console because in the second generation, that's kind of what you did. It's just like, let's see what happens. Nobody cares. Nobody cares if it succeeds. No one cares if it fails. So it's like, who cares? But they basically sold the Intellivision right at the video game crash in 1983. Like, when that was on the horizon, they pretty much sold everything to do with it to a company called, I think it was called INTV, who later would rename themselves Intellivision once they bought the rights, who are making this new system, the Intellivision Amico. So they kind of tried to support the Intellivision for a bit longer, but eventually it faded out because the NES and the Master System were so much more popular. So, but the Intellivision has that place in history as being one of the consoles that technically survived after the game crash. You had four really that I could think of. The Atari 2600, which really lived on, like that was still successful after the game crash. You had the Intellivision and the ColecoVision, which were kind of successful because they were kind of well known. Then you had the last system, which is the Vectrex, which was released in 1982, and they were bought, and the company that made that were bought out by Milton Brantley, and they gave the system another chance. So it lived on technically, but like the other two, it's just like not really. It kind of existed, but not really. I think all systems other than the 2600 were discontinued by 85 when the NES came out. I think. I could be wrong. But anyway, that's a basic history of the Intellivision. It was a pretty decent system. It was more powerful than the 2600, but not quite as powerful as the ColecoVision. So, it's cool to see a company taking another shot at making a retro system based off anything that isn't an Atari 2600 or NES. So, with that being said, we're going to watch a trailer now, and if I think there's anything worth talking about, I'll mention it. As in, I'll just pause the trailer and say my opinion on whatever is being said. So, trailer's about 2 minutes long, so let's get into it.
Our goal at Intellivision is to use technology to bring family and friends back together. Games these days have become so complicated, from the controls, the complexity, the menu screens. I mean, everything about it just screams, hardcore gamer.
Now, you see, I don't exactly completely agree with this statement. I mean, I get what he's trying to say, but I believe there are still some games that exist that are not only easy for casual audiences to get into, but that are kind of intended to be played locally. I mean, it is less of a thing now. I will agree. Like, there are less games that try to get to play locally. It's more about playing online multiplayer. But even still, I mean, there are a lot of like family-friendly games still released with the intention of being able to play two-player and have like local co-op, but the system seems to be trying to aim specifically towards that. Which, I mean, that's how the retro systems back in the day were, so it kind of makes sense. And it's a different direction, so it could be interesting.
People used to play games with their families and friends all in a room together, and that doesn't happen anymore. People's fondest memories out there of playing video games together is when they were with a group of people. Our whole idea is to bring people together, put them in the same room.
So you can see here, the controllers on the system are these two things on the top here, and they kind of look like a version, like a more modern version of the original Intellivision controller. You see, they have what looks to be a touchscreen on them, and the original Intellivision had, in place of that, a keypad. Like, there was this weird time where people thought that having a game controller that looked like a telephone with way too many buttons for such primitive games was a great idea. I think the only two systems that actually did it were the Intellivision and ColecoVision. They're not very good controllers, but they also had that directional disc thing that you can see on these controllers, well, what you could have seen earlier. But they look kind of interesting. I mean, it's good that they're going for that, they know they have the Intellivision name, and they know that that's kind of a well-known thing, so they seem to be really playing off of that. And it really feels like a more modern Intellivision based on the look here. Like, I do like the design of the system. We'll get better images of it as the trailer goes on, but it looks interesting so far, and the controllers are a decent idea. Like, I mean, they don't look terrible. I mean, I'll have to wait till it comes out to see, but I mean, they look like they could work for more casual-based games, because that's what they're really going for. They're trying to bring everyone together, not just, one or the other markets, trying to unite everyone, kind of.
Having fun, communicating.
Okay, so there's a better view of the system there. You can see it properly there. That's it in red. It shows a bunch of different colors. So, I mean, it looks interesting. Like, I kind of like the design. Like, I mean, it doesn't really, look like anything that is related to the Intellivision other than the controllers, but the design overall looks pretty interesting. Although they say it's going to be cheap, but that doesn't, doesn't look very cheap. So I mean, I don't know if they mean the system's going to be cheap or the games are going to be cheap. Like that's just being said there. They don't show the price for the system. They give a release date at the end, but they don't show any price for it. I like this one in particular because this is the one that anyone who had an Intellivision would probably get. Like this is the original color scheme for the Intellivision. Like they had the brass and then the wood grain finish on it because it was released in the 70s and everything had a wood grain finish. But that looks really like nostalgic, and I think that actually looks pretty good.
Bringing back that kind of game night.
So you say it's affordable, but they don't say what. I'm assuming the games, but they really seem to be targeting families with this.
Playing games, having fun, no matter what skill level you are.
And this is a bunch of different game types that are going to be on it.
That we want to bring back with the Intellivision.
Now see, this is interesting. All games are exclusive and only on Amico. Now, that's kind of a double-edged sword. It's like, on one hand, it's like, if you get this system, you know that you're going to get unique experiences. There's nothing else. Like, these games aren't going to be on anything else. Except an original Intellivision. Apparently there's going to be retro Intellivision games supported on this. I don't know how that's going to be done. Probably digital download. But new games that come out for are only going to be available on it. So that could be viewed as good because you're getting a whole ton of new experiences. But that could be viewed as bad because it's like, well, if those games aren't actually any good, then you've got a system which has no good games on it. But I mean, they seem to be taking this really seriously, unlike the Atari VCS, which is another basically similar thing. Like, it's made by a company using their name to like get attention on it. Except this one is doing it properly. The Atari VCS isn't. That's been like a thing for like 2-3 years now, and we still know nothing about it. We've got one trailer. This was released like the first images of this thing were shown maybe about half a year ago, maybe a bit longer, and now we're getting a trailer here. So this is how this is how Atari should have went about it if they were taking it as seriously as Intellivision are. But I think all exclusive games can be good if they deliver, as in if they're good. So trailer's almost finished here.
Having fun, united once again.
And these are some like clips of I'm assuming upcoming games. I mean, Asteroids definitely isn't an exclusive. Like, Asteroids is on a lot of stuff. Maybe it's a new version. I don't know. And then we get the release date, 10th of October, 2020. So next year. I mean, if it actually comes out, then that'll be good. And if it's like the Atari VCS and gets delayed 5 trillion times, then we'll see. But that's the end of the trailer just there. Like, the rest of it's just saying go to website for more information. So, I mean, that's the end of the trailer. And overall, I think it was actually a pretty decent trailer. Like, I mean, it got across what they're trying to do. Like, it's getting across the fact they want you to know this is for everyone. Like, this is a family-friendly experience that's catered towards local family playing. So, I think that's something that like you said, it's kind of like a lost thing. Like, most people, like, I mean, be honest, when was the last time you actually played a game with your family and not like just online play? Like, when was the last time you sat down with someone and played a local multiplayer? Probably not very recently. But I mean, the whole every game's an exclusive thing, I'm kind of looking forward to that. And I guess we'll see when it comes out which developers are actually on board with it. Like, it could just end up being a bunch of good Intellivision games and a bunch of shovelware. That's a very real possibility. But they seem to be taking it more seriously than that. So I've got a feeling that's not how it's actually going to end up. But overall, I'm pretty excited for it, and I think this could really have a chance at being successful. They just have to do it right. And based on what we're seeing here, I'd say they're taking this pretty well. They're doing it pretty good. So I think they do have a chance of making a successful system here. And I'll probably pick one up and see how it is. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I'm sure more stuff will get released in the future. I mean, we'll see. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. You can like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, or dislike if you did not. Leave a comment saying what you want to see in the future, if you have any ideas or any way this could be better, because I mean, I know this isn't the greatest setup in the world, but the best I can do at the moment. Alright, thanks guys, I'll see you next time. Goodbye.